Hi and hello everyone. Welcome to Scholar IS Current Affairs classes. Without any delay, we will start looking into the important articles of the day. The first article is related to internet shutdowns. Students, this is an article from the Hindu and it is related to your GS2 governance paper. Okay. So what's the issue is? Right now we know that the central government has actually shut down internet service in parts of NCR, that is National Capital Region, and the internet service has been restricted there. This was done to counter the protests against farm bills. Okay, and this has raised some concerns. And in India, the last 4 years alone, there have been 400 such shutdowns. Now let's try to understand what are the concerns and what are the provisions that actually enable the government to do so and everything in detail. The first one is the concern. Why should be concerned about such banning of internet access? First thing is, even the UN rights group regards such shutdown as a collective punishment for people. So we know the farmers who came to Delhi to protest were coming from Punjab region, Punjab and Haryana. And when they entered Delhi region, and the people who were in Delhi are collectively punished. I mean, though the citizens of Delhi haven't directly participated in these acts of violence that happened during Republic Day, but they were also punished. So this collective punishment is done when internet access is shut down, is restricted. And also this is a type of overreach of government, okay, because the Supreme Court itself has recognized right to access internet as a fundamental right. Okay, it's not just some legal right or constitutional right, rather it is a fundamental right. And it is, this right is regarded on par with right to trade, business or occupation. So when such significant right is getting restricted, it actually affects the citizens' liberties as well. So this is a concern for everyone. But on what grounds actually the central government shuts down the internet? The first thing is public emergency. The second thing is public interest. So you can see these two terms. These two are the grounds on which the central government is actually shutting down the internet. But you can understand these two terms are too vague to be understood or to have a particular specific meaning to it. And this vagueness and the scope for arbitrary exercise of shutdowns happens. So this actually brings in the dominance of government itself, the executives. So this is a major issue, and these provisions of the law gives them the liberty to gives the government the liberty to impose shutdown on on any possible issues. Apart from the issue that the concern that it raises, the shutting down of internet raises in respect of the rights of citizens, there are also other impacts in terms of the economy. For instance, the internet shutdown in 2020 alone cost India about $2.8 billion. So because we know that the economy is more relying on internet, and when internet is shut down, it also restricts the economic activity. And in Jammu and Kashmir alone, there have been 228 days that JNK went out without internet service at all because of other reasons. It was not directly linked to farm loss, but it was due to the issues related to security. And also, this shutting down of internet, that too during pandemic, has a very significant impact on societal as well as economic level. Let's try to understand who are all affected. Those who get actually affected during the pandemic because of this internet shutdown are the people who are with poor digital literacy, or at least who have poor connectivity of internet. So what happens when these people are getting affected? They get left out of the social as well as economic system during the pandemic times, because during pandemic the economic activity itself got affected, and that too when internet connectivity is also restricted, it further adds to the burden. And that too, a blanket bans on digital connectivity during COVID crisis lead to, it can even lead to deep rooted societal difficulties, because right now the crisis itself has affected the economic stand of many households. And in addition to this, when digital connectivity is also affected, it further pushes them into poverty. So this would further lead to societal difficulties. And also vulnerable people are the first most affected are the vulnerable people, because they are cut off from health services and welfare services, which are getting digitalized now. And students are also attending digital classes, they are also getting affected. This week I would have observed normally. And finally we have this work from home mode of working, which the IT industry is adopting. When that is undertaken and when these shutdowns are brought in, this is going to affect this mode of working altogether. So what needs to be done to handle this in a more sensible way? First thing is, the internet bans should be the last resort. It should not be taken as the first solution to bring in any bring solution to any issues. Rather, it should be the last resort. And it's also, even when it is enforced as a last resort, there should be a well formulated protocol to decide and guide the whole internet ban during the particular period, and it should not be arbitrary in nature. And even during such internet shutdowns, the emergency response and relief system should be working. So there has to be a parallel system of communication and mode of communication that should be existing to ensure that emergency response are not getting affected. And third thing is the institutional mechanism itself. Of the institutional mechanism, one is the cyber division of law enforcement agencies should be adequately trained, and they should be given new age innovations. I mean, they should be incorporated with new age innovations so that it acts as an alternative to these kind of issues, so that it cannot it where we do not actually need to shut down the internet, which affects everyone, even those who are not actually involved in that particular issue. Rather, we have to come up with some new age innovations so that it has a more effective there is a more effective way of handling these kind of issues. And also at institutional level, the national dilemma between national security and civil liberty has to be handled in a mature way. Only when these things are done, any proper shutdown or any issues can be handled in a very sensible and effective manner. So this is all about this internet shutdown article. Let's try to move on to next article. The second article is on crypto industry. So this is an article important for the GS3 mains paper and economic development section. So what has been in the news is that cryptocurrency and regulation of official digital currency bill 2020-21 is being taken up in the parliament, and it seeks to ban all private cryptocurrencies. This word is very important because the whole issue is around this particular term private. Okay, let's try to understand what it deals with. So, and also it provides the creation of legislative framework on an official digital currency. So it not only bans the private cryptocurrency, but it also promotes a framework for official digital currency itself. India has a brief history of dealing with cryptocurrency, and one important thing around this is the bill that was supposedly passed in 2019, which sought to ban the cryptocurrency itself, and it also tried to criminalize its possession in India, but it was not passed in the parliament. And later, Reserve Bank of India also banned cryptocurrencies, but later this got turned over by the Supreme Court of India itself. For now, let's try to understand, even if the government tries to bring up this bill, and if this is able to, if this bill is passed in the parliament and gets assent of president, it has an impact. If a complete ban is imposed, it has a definitive impact. Who will be getting impacted and how it will impact? Let's try to understand. The first thing is, around 8 million investors will be hit by likely ban. Even if this ban is imposed, about 8 million investors are there who would be directly getting affected by this particular legislation. And also this would actually affect the India's economy. So this is very obvious reasons. In addition to this, even Indians have invested almost about $1 billion in digital currencies. Okay, so the future of these investments depends upon the definition of private cryptocurrency itself. So as I mentioned, this word private is going to have a major impact on how the government is going to treat the cryptocurrencies that are being held or in which the Indians have invested, right, as of now. And this would actually have an impact on the private cryptocurrencies like Ripple that is owned by Facebook. So there are many organizations or many companies that are involved in this cryptocurrency business. So the definition of this private cryptocurrency is actually going to have a significant impact on the way that these organizations are going to function. And many Indian corporations are already using the private blockchain infrastructure. Okay, so we know the cryptocurrency uses the blockchain infrastructure, and many Indian corporations are also using this. So these corporations will also get affected. And there are certain open source cryptocurrencies like Bitcoins. So either it may not be affected as it is not privately owned, or else it might be affected if the definition of private would mean that it is only the government's cryptocurrency that would be regarded legal in India. So there are two ways about it. If government says that even the open source cryptocurrencies are not legal, then even this bitcoins would be getting affected. So the definition of private cryptocurrency is going to have a significant impact on industries across this cryptocurrency section. Now we know the technicality involved in the definition of private cryptocurrency, and we have to observe to handle this challenge the government has to actually come up with a new term instead of using the term private, because there is a lot of confusion around this term private. Basically, when this is changed, it would be easy to define and regulate the non-government cryptocurrencies, and there would be clarity around what would constitute a non-government cryptocurrency or private currency. So this needs to be done. Even though the bill on cryptocurrency is being discussed in the parliament, the crypto community is optimistic about it and they have responded in a positive way. They actually expect that there won't be a complete ban on cryptocurrencies itself. And also, the community from the crypto industry is actually actively engaging with the government and trying to find a common ground so that both are able to coexist along with the government. The government and the private crypto industry are able to coexist. And even the leading cryptocurrency companies such as CoinDCX and WazirX, they have actually initiated a Twitter campaign named India Wants Bitcoin. And this particular campaign actually aims to educate and build greater awareness among policymakers and the public about cryptocurrencies. Because as of now, even the policymakers view this as a challenge to the existing legal tender. So rather, they have to come to an amicable solution and to arrive at a common ground to find a possible solution for both to coexist. These kind of campaigns and which aims to educate the policymakers as well as the public is very important. So this is some sort of a positive response that is coming out of the crypto industries, crypto community. So this is all about the crypto industry, students. And for more such articles, visit our platform scholar.com as well as subscribe to our channel. Until next class, happy learning. See you. Bye bye.